I'm here! I did it! I finally watched the show. I can still talk about it and review it, right? I'm not too late to the party, right? I brought cake. Well, talk about an awkward position to be in. While I do pride myself on being a cartoon connoisseur who always keeps up to date with events in the animation community, there is one show that I just never found the time to watch all the way through. That show is The Amazing World of Gumball. This is especially surprising because if you know me well, you notice how perfectly this show matches my tastes. Multiple unique and colorful animation styles, slice of life episodic format, adorable relationships, over-the-top expressions, and a heavy emphasis on comedy. All things I love. How have I not been keeping up with this show all this time? Well, here's the deal. The show first came out in 2011 when I was just starting high school, and since I put a massive emphasis on academics back then, I just couldn't find any room in my schedule for it. And if that wasn't bad enough, the show continued to air all the way through my high school and college careers where my time was extremely limited, and only now when I've graduated and finally have more free time is when it decides to end. Talk about rotten luck. But fortunately, I got the last laugh, since I got to see every episode of the show's final season as it aired. And unlike Star Vs. or Steven Universe, where every scrap of lore is important for future stories, this show is episodic, meaning I can technically jump in anytime I want and still enjoy myself. Seems like all the stars finally aligned for me. But in the end, how would I rank this show's final 44? Did they entice me to see more, or just turn me away from the series altogether? Well, you know the drill by now. Each episode gets reviewed in 10 words or less. They all get a 1 to 10 ranking, with 1 being abysmal and 10 being nearly perfect. You're always welcome to rank the episodes yourself in the comments below, and special thanks to Jello Apocalypse who came up with this awesome style of reviewing in the first place. Let's hope this gumball hasn't lost its flavor after all these years, cause it's time for every episode of The Amazing World of Gumball Season 6 reviewed in 10 words or less. Let's do this. Stewie Griffin is a pink bunny, complete with nightmare face. I do declare, this episode's a bit of a drag. Well, at least they went out with a bang. An episode about being lazy, but no lazy writing. Impressive. Some long drawn-out scenes, but mostly pretty good. If your dad is a deadbeat, don't fall for his tricks. It's funnier when the episode does it. Never been a fan of cringe comedy. Sorry. Alright, what genius put a fist fighter on steroids? What's the point of reviewing episodes? Life is never-ending pain! What a wonderful little reminder to appreciate life's small joys. Proof that money and violence solve all political problems. Wait, so that cup did have a face, I wasn't hallucinating. The funniest bad breath gag since Something Smells. Kinda sad that some marriages really are that short. Can Sarah write every episode from now on, please? Job market's so fierce you gotta apply before you're born. Can violin, baseball, karate, chess, football please be a thing? Dance, dance, elevation, huh? I like your thinking, Richard. Black Friday. Black Friday never changes. Buy beforehand. Stay safe. Commentary's not super original, but the jokes are pretty funny. The classic dramatic fart mislead. Shrek taught you well. The Amazing World of Everybody Except Gumball.
Once upon a time, Finn squeed at some pinball banter.
Zimbibble Bob of episode Ms. Rizzle Raymond shorts. The Wattersons on a budget are kinda messed up. A Halloween episode? You know what that means! References!
Spooky, scary skeletons and shivers down your spine.
Okay, that recycled animation bit was pure genius. Leslie and Gumball just troll each other, and it's great. Laziness requires its own level of intelligence. Ghost plus goldfish equals Gumball's cutest couple? Makes total sense. Take a look, it's in a book, a deadly weapon. Dad, where's the Fortress of Solitude? Next to the meatloaf. Richard as Dungeon Master, something I never knew I wanted. Silence is golden. And turns you inside out, apparently. Barbara Fire and Halaza! Sorry, I had to. Not super funny, but definitely super touching. Show tunes about rainbows and then tripping out on gases. Gumball goes undercover. The sewer cover, that is. Did they seriously reference those Minion Facebook memes? Gumball parodies The Hangover. That's all I need to say. Back then, those were actual children's toys. I'm not kidding. This is what happens when you objectify objects. Alan, I love you, but never eat on screen again. Please. Alright, enough with the darn jokes already. That can't be the ending. There's a movie coming, right? Alrighty, that was pretty fun, but it's time to buckle up for the top 3 and bottom 3 of this season. Fair warning in advance, if I miss any continuity nods or callbacks when I talk about certain episodes, it's because this is my first season of Gumball, so forgive me if I screw up anything during these discussions. Also, fair warning, they're pretty dang long, so I hope you brought a snack with you. With that being said, let's get to counting down. Number 3 worst, The Understanding. From what I've seen of this show, Gumball has a knack for mocking the more uncomfortable sides of social interactions, which can be really relatable and of course, really funny. Gumball also has a tendency to employ a twist ending in certain episodes, and if it flows with the story, it can be very welcome and a nice way to shock the audience. However, sometimes when you mix these two ingredients, all you get is a sloppy mess. The Understanding starts off kinda simple, with a new kid named Petey Pepperoni trying to get used to public school after being homeschooled his whole life. The only problem is that no one can understand a single word he's saying. I hope that concept sounds interesting to you, because that's literally his only character trait in the whole episode. He just spouts out random nonsense while Gumball, Darwin, and the audience are forced to put up with it. And while the various reactions of the duo can get kinda funny, having to listen to unintelligible gibberish for 50% of the episode gets really old really fast. Up to the halfway mark, I'd call this episode mostly okay. A bit annoying, but not abysmal or anything. But then you get the twist ending, where we find out that Petey's parents are actually raging anarchists who plan to rob Town Hall of all the criminal records, and Gumball and Darwin unknowingly agreed to help them since they've been nodding in agreement with Petey all day. As far as shock humor goes, I'll give him credit, I did not see that coming one bit. But the more I watched it, the more I realized how tonally uneven this story is. It's as if they mashed two completely different episodes together with a very loose string connecting them. I have no issues with shocking endings, but the problem is that the second half feels completely different from the first half, and it just kind of leaves me with a case of confusion and tonal whiplash. This episode is safe from being lower because, as usual, the humor's pretty solid. That scene of everybody getting ironically appropriate criminal records, Gumball and Darwin's ways to cope with Petey's gibberish, and the principal's little xylophone gag at the beginning were all great. But sadly, they don't save an otherwise cluttered and poorly paced episode. In my opinion, I'd say you're just better off watching The Neighbor. It mocks the awkwardness of a social dilemma perfectly, in this case forgetting a person's name, and actually has a cohesive story, good variety, and a surprise ending that makes sense and feels fitting. Never in my life did I expect to dislike something pizza related, but this episode managed to do that to me. For shame, Gumball. For shame. Number 3 best, The Master. Oh, putting the D&D episode on your favorites list. How unexpected, Finn. How nuanced of you. Yeah, I know. Anyone who's close to me knows about my ever-growing love for D&D and how I've won the hearts of millions as Ivan Windstrummer the Roaming Gnome, so an episode like this already had some points in its favor for me. But even putting my biases aside, what we have here is just a really heartwarming episode with a clever spin on a pop culture phenomenon, aka one of the things that Gumball does really well. With the majority of the family at each other's throats after a really long day, their family game night starts going awry when they start bringing their unresolved issues into the game world. AKA, they spend almost the entire session just screwing with each other in creative ways, drawing on their player sheets to change their in-game appearance, using their turns in battle to torment one another, and generally just being pains in the butt. Never really seen a D&D themed episode where the biggest threat to the group is the group itself, and that makes for some really funny bits. The way they keep flipping back and forth between the game world and the real world is mostly done well, leading to some really great humor. Like how they have a snack break during the final boss and then implement their food coma as an obstacle in the game. Very clever. I will admit that sometimes the flipping can spoil the dramatic tone at certain moments, but not enough to ruin the episode. And of course we have the best part by far, which is Richard as the Dungeon Master. So far I would probably say Richard is my favorite character in the show, because as this episode shows, beneath that molecule-sized brain is a heart as big as his belly. He does all he can to ensure that his family has an enjoyable evening, even if that involves sitting through their endless arguing, and he eventually gets them to play along, leading to an epic final battle full of action, drama, tension, and of course a boom, mega happy ending. I've always been a sap for mega happy endings, so I thought that was a nice way to cap things off. What else can I say? The jokes are top notch, the parody is respectable, Richard is adorable, the final fight was epic, the ending was sweet, and it's by far the best appearance of the Wattersons as a family all season. You guys rolled a nat 20 with this one for sure, and you've made one gnome bard very happy. Number 2 worst, the BFFs. Long and boring episode is long and boring. The BFFs already has a generic and tropey plot to begin with, where a third wheel comes between the show's two best buddies and ends up tearing them apart. And to be fair, if there's any show nowadays that can make the story work, it's Gumball. You know, break some cliches, tell some funny jokes, surprise us with some unique twists we've never seen before. But no, instead what we get is a collection of really long drawn out scenes and gags leading to a rushed conclusion and an overall mediocre experience. The pacing of the story is really inconsistent. Things start off okay with Fuzzy showing up at the Watterson house, him and Gumball having a little catching up session, and then Gumball giving Darwin some reassurance that he'll always love him. But then Darwin gets jealous again. And again. And there's a long drawn out walk to Fuzzy's house. And then a really quick reveal of Fuzzy's true nature. Then Darwin shows up right away to save him, Fuzzy gets defeated by a fat Pioro ex machina, and then the episode just ends. There's a lot they could have cut, and also a lot they could have expanded on here. I'd say scrap the walk to Fuzzy's house since it wasn't even that funny to begin with, get rid of Gumball and Darwin's second argument, and then instead of Darwin just showing up right after Fuzzy's revealed, have a scene where Darwin is frantically running to save him, while Fuzzy tortures Gumball by making him do all kinds of embarrassing toddler things. You could have tons of rapid-fire jokes from both scenarios instead of just a slow crawl from one place to another. I think it could work really well. The humor is also all over the place, with some great jokes like Darwin spending all day to think of a comeback, some okay jokes like Fuzzy's Minnesota slang, and some really annoying jokes like Darwin constantly saying that he doesn't give a darn in every possible way. The first time was kind of funny, but then he just keeps doing it, and eventually loses all its power for me. I do think the idea of having a Terminator homage with a Furby is an interesting one, and it makes a lot of sense since a Furby is a seemingly cute, innocent creature on the outside, but a cold, unfeeling machine on the inside, so it fits with the plot and characters as well. But I was kind of hoping that Gumball would be able to take this basic, overdone premise and do something a lot funnier with it. It's a shame that this is the second to last episode of the show, because it honestly feels like something you'd see in seasons 1 or 2. I wouldn't be completely opposed to watching it again, but there are much funnier and more intelligent episodes that deserve your attention. Such as... Number 2 best, The Founder. Holy cow, the competition for funniest episode of the season was rough. We had contenders like the Shippening, the Spin-Offs, the Heart, and the Brain, all of which made me admire the writing and bust a gut while laughing. But after a lot of hard thinking, I have to give this spot to The Founder. Not only for the multitude of inspired gags, not only for Nicole and Richard's hilariously different experiences, but just for the unparalleled amount of fun this was to watch. Nicole ends up going to a big corporate headquarters called Chenix in order to pay a bill, which she can't do online since their internet is out. They also used this internet outage as a funny way to write the kids out of this episode, which was a nice touch. She tells Richard to just wait in the car to keep him from doing something stupid, but his stomach gets the best of him and lo and behold, he gets mistaken for the founder of the company. How, you might ask? Well, he just walks in and says he owns the place and they pretty much believe him. As stupid as that sounds, it actually works on many different levels. Story-wise, it makes sense because the CEO did call the founder over that exact day to approve the building's new design. And it's not often you have someone just randomly enter a business building and say they're the owner. But wait, why wouldn't they do some research to see if this guy's the real deal? Well, a lot of people know that big business is all about brown-nosing the higher-ups to get ahead. So if there's even the slightest likelihood that someone is more important than you, you're gonna want to suck up to them as much as possible. Why would you waste time doing research on the guy when that's less time you could be impressing him? So yeah, not only is this great satire, but an interesting way to get the ball rolling for the story. Speaking of a ball, that's exactly what I had during this episode. The entertainment value here is overwhelming. Making Richard the head of an office building where he makes all the decisions basically just gives him a playground for his stupidity and weirdness to just run wild, and I think that's one of the best ways to use him. He creates this little FAQ video where he tries to make the experience of the employees more functional by installing things like pizza ovens, hammocks, and slides throughout the building, all while failing to answer the real questions the employees have. Amazing. The CEO tries to show him the new design for the building, but before he can even take the sheet off the model, Richard stops him, saying that the covered up model is the perfect design, looking like a ghost on stilts. And everybody just blindly agrees with him, because of course they do. But the funniest joke in the episode, possibly the whole season, happens right before Richard leaves the car. His shoulder devils and angels start arguing with each other, which drives Richard to say this.
I either need some food or some therapy. Chips are cheaper.
I actually had to pause the episode because I was laughing so hard. Whoever wrote that, give them a raise. And a muffin basket. When you combine all of this with the joyful, fun Broadway-style show tune and a frustrated Nicole having to deal with Richard's weird choices, you get a comedic masterpiece. If the executive treatment from SpongeBob taught me anything, it's that putting idiots in the world of big business can yield some really funny results, and the founder is definitely all that and a bag of chips. Number 1 worst, the Inquisition. Alright, before I criticize this one as a series finale, first I want to talk about it as an episode, just to be fair. As a regular Gumball adventure, this one's okay. Having a live-action superintendent of schools show up and transform the Elmore student body into more realistic humans is actually really interesting. It's cool to see what all of our favorite characters would look like in human form, and in a way it sort of works as a satire of how certain animation companies tend to switch to live action for no apparent reason, essentially fixing something that was never really broken to begin with. Disney is doing it nowadays with their live-action reboots, and even Cartoon Network did it a while back with CN Real. Maybe they could have taken this concept a little bit further, but as is, it's pretty entertaining. The humor is a very mixed bag, with some jokes being hilarious, some being decent, and some just being kinda gross.
The mushrooms count? Yes. Where are you going? To scrape the walls of the locker room showers.
He forced me to have a body. My heart is in my mouth. Although, judging by the taste, it may be my lower intestine.
But as a whole, if this were to air sometime in the middle of the season as a regular episode, it wouldn't even be on here. Maybe a 6 or 7 out of 10. But it isn't. It's a series finale. And it really doesn't feel like one. This finale fails for 2 fundamental reasons. It's not inclusive, and it's not conclusive. Now, I'm not going to say that Gumball has the most deep and complex character cast ever made. It's a comedy show. The episodes exist to put the characters in wacky situations and see how they react. But at the very least, I want to see those characters I've come to know and love one last time before I say goodbye. Preferably with some kind of personal stakes or scenarios that show off their lovable personalities. Remember Goodbye to Blue from Foster's Home? That was an amazing finale. We get tons of callbacks to previous episodes, spot-on depictions of all the characters we've gotten to know over 6 seasons, emotional stakes with Max seemingly moving away forever and everybody reacting accordingly, and even a sweet little ending scene with the intro playing in reverse, and a little thanks for watching message from Craig and Lauren during the end credits. Call it sappy or corny all you want, but it brought the series to a sweet and satisfying close. We got to say goodbye to all the characters in the same way they got to say goodbye to Mac, and I'm not gonna lie, it got me a little teary-eyed at times. And hey, if you want to go for something more epic and dramatic, which you seem to be building up for, that's fine too, but it has to feel earned. It has to feel like a big chapter of this world and these characters are wrapping up. Avatar: The Last Airbender had the defeat of the Fire Lord, who was built up for multiple seasons, Aang's full realization of himself as the Avatar, and all his friends fighting the good fight alongside him. Wander Over Yonder had the season's antagonist Dominator being cut down to size, Wander showing that even galaxies can bounce back after a huge tragedy, and Hater finally using his powers for something other than evil. These feel like something big is now over, something we've been waiting for, something we wanted to see. But with Gumball, we not only end on a shot that feels as empty as the void itself with tons of unanswered questions, but we don't even see half the cast. All we get are Gumball, Darwin, and the Elmore student body. No Nicole, no Richard, no Anais, no Larry, no Donut Cop guy, nothing. We're just left to assume that everybody disappeared into the void without a trace, and we'll never get to see them again. Man, I feel hollow and empty just saying that. And lastly, for those that say that an upcoming Gumball movie will fix everything and be a proper conclusion to the story, that's no excuse. Even if a series is expecting a movie, the show itself should still end in a conclusive way. Steven Universe Change Your Mind was created full well knowing that there was gonna be a movie afterwards. And while I admit that it was a little bit rushed, the majority of the loose ends were tied up. The diamonds were defeated and redeemed, the corrupted gems were healed, Lars returned to Earth, and everything ended not only on a nice song, but on a wonderful shot of Steven, Garnet, Pearl, and Amethyst just sitting on the beach looking up towards the horizon, similar to what we see them do every time in the show's intro. Even if there's more to come, this felt like it brought everything full circle, which I really appreciate. With Gumball, it's like, sorry guys, if you can't afford to see the movie, or there ends up being no movie, guess this is all you get, tough toenails. If a movie comes out, I'll definitely see it, but it's a real shame that the cartoon ended on such a blank note. And the #1 best episode of the Amazing World of Gumball Season 6, by far, no questions asked, I'll hear no argument, is The Faith. Everything about this episode, from the story to the premise to the song to the message, speaks to me on a level I can't even begin to explain. I'm an optimistic person by nature. I love to see the bright side of things wherever I can find it, no matter how hopeless a situation may seem. And in reality, that's really difficult to do because tragedy is all around us. Some of it personal, some of it local, some of it global, and some that's existed since the beginning of time. War, starvation, sickness, pollution, financial issues, liars, cheaters, stealers, they all exist and they are everywhere. And sometimes when there's too much to handle and individual actions don't seem to make a difference, it could be enough to break even the happiest of people. But this episode shows that even with life not being all sunshine and rainbows, it's not impossible to find happiness in the world. You just need to find joy in life's little offerings, happy memories, time with loved ones, fun activities, and things like that. It can be hard with most of the world blanketed in gray, but when you find those few special, colorful moments, it makes such a huge difference in your life and can brighten your outlook so much. This is perfectly illustrated throughout the episode, and I would have ranked it this high just on the amazing execution of the moral alone, but there's a lot more to be loved here. For one, the atmosphere is beautifully built up. Bit by bit, we see society falling apart in creative ways, like things randomly losing their color, graffiti littering the streets, a hole in the ozone layer emerging because no one recycles, and ducks going insane because no one was there to feed them. Not only does this lead to some insanely creative visuals and use of lighting to set the mood, not only do we get some well-woven in laughs to add some levity, but for 3/4 of the story, the audience is left suspicious and intrigued, not only wondering which piece of society's puzzle is going to fall out next, but also what's causing all of this. And in the end, it's revealed to be Alan, who's pretty much lost all of his hope in humanity because the few things he does don't seem to be making any major difference, so he stopped doing them. I really like how all of this chaos was caused just because one person decided to give up. It really does show how small little actions do make a big difference in the long run, albeit in a comedically over-exaggerated way, but hey, that's Gumball for you. So in spite of his hatred for Alan, Gumball joins Darwin and sings a song to lift Alan's spirits. And this is by far the major highlight of the episode. The tone of the song shifts a lot of times, and each segment speaks volumes about the episode's message. The first part has a very upbeat and cheesy kind of tone, which is ironic since the lyrics keep talking about very morbid and depressing things. You can see this as Gumball and Darwin trying to cover up the sadness with humor, which a lot of people tend to do. But the second part shows that this isn't really doing anything for Alan, as he's not looking for a quick fix, he's looking for a genuine answer to his problems. Why should he feel happy when the world is such a terrible place and never shows any signs of getting better? And then we get the final and most powerful part. Like I mentioned before, the best way to stay happy when the world is full of so much turmoil is to find little joys in your life. Hold them close to your heart and look back on them when times are rough. These joys can be harder and harder to find as time goes by, but they'll always be there waiting to be found, like colorful eggs during an Easter egg hunt. This right here is what true optimism is all about. If the world were perfect, it would be incredibly easy to be happy all the time. But it's not, and those that can find the light in the harshest darkness of today deserve a lot of credit. We need more Allens in the world, and hopefully this episode inspires others to go down that path as well. This is not only an excellent episode and an excellent reminder of how to stay happy nowadays, but in a way, it shows the charm of Gumball as a show. Gumball is no stranger to showing life's ups and downs, from the adorable moments to the awkward moments. We see characters fail, mess up, and suffer in very understandable ways, but we also see them savoring small victories when they pop up every now and then. It's a show that reminds us that life isn't perfect, but there will always be small things to appreciate, things that make us smile, tear up, blush, and of course, laugh. I have nothing but good things to say about The Faith, and if there was any episode I've ever talked about where a 10 ranking means perfection, I think it would be this one. It's no question in my mind that this is my favorite episode of Season 6. Well, that's all I've got for you today. Which Gumball episode did you enjoy the most? Leave your own answers in the comments below, and tell me what you thought of mine as well. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and I hope to see you all real soon.